Hello everyone, my name is VoidDoctor, and welcome back to another episode on the InfinityCraft server. And today we begin this episode outside the animal barn that we constructed last episode to house my cows and sheep that were originally just housed over in open pens over there. And the reason it's just cows and sheep, if you were wondering, is because I really don't feel like there's a reason to domesticate any other animals in the game. My mouth kind of got stuck on the word animals. There really isn't I don't feel like there's a reason to domesticate anything else, other than maybe horses, but that's not really domestication. I just kind of have that horse there for looks, to kind of make it look like I'm, make it, kind of contribute to the medieval theme that we have going on around here. And also bees. Bees are very useful to domesticate. If you get a beehive, you should immediately put a campfire underneath it. Don't do what I did. I'm not smart. Every time I go to harvest honey, I have to run away from the bees, which is it's great. Anyway, I'd like to begin today's episode just constructing, building up one of the foundations that I laid out 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 episodes ago. I can't remember now. But yeah, one of the foundations that we laid out a few episodes ago, let's just say it that way. And yeah, I think I'm probably going to build up this one because it's, I feel like it has more of an interesting shape than the other foundations. This one's somewhat interesting because it has this little protrusion out at the front that could be like a, just a couple of pillars or something. These two are just rectangles, sort of just filler houses. This one, however, I'm planning on having a stairwell here and things. Just, it's a bit more of an interesting shape. So I think this is the foundation I'd like to build up this episode. And I'm just going to build up one foundation. And I'd like to keep that as a trend. Just 1 or 2 foundations being built up every episode. Just because I feel like it's a bit easier to focus on the little details rather than just what I did last season, which was I kind of built up a lot at one time, and they started to feel like they were just kind of cookie cutter houses. So at least these have more interesting shapes and, interesting features, and even not super different block palettes, but just slightly different block palettes to sort of differentiate them. So I think I'm just going to go gather up all of the materials that I will most likely be needing to construct this house, and it will have a similar block palette to this house over here. The similar, basically meaning mostly the same blocks. Not all of the same blocks, but mostly. So I think I'm just going to go gather those. Most of them will probably be in my storage system, but there might be some that aren't. So after I'm done gathering up all the materials and probably putting them in shulker boxes, I'll get back to you. I looked in this chest hoping to find copious amounts of dark oak in here, but found 49 dark oak logs. This is a big problem. Although good news, I thought I had barely any spruce logs, but it turns out I have 4 stacks, which is probably more than enough. I actually have more than 4 stacks of spruce logs, but I don't think I'll need more than 4 stacks of spruce logs, and it just saves on shulker box inventory space to only have 4 stacks of spruce logs. So, yeah. Alright, folks, I have a bit of a situation. I went to grab some glass from the glass aisle of the storage hall, and I realized there's, basically nothing in there. So, went to go grab some sand. Realized there's basically no sand. I have a little bit of red sand, but other than that, I pretty much have no sand. So I think I'm going to call up Too Much Mustard, or just try and contact Too Much Mustard, and potentially buy some red sand off of him. Do a bit of trade, a bit of commerce, and potentially try and buy some red sand off of him, since he has settled in the mesa. And red sand works just as well as, white sand for, crafting up things like glass and TNT. So I think I'm going to buy some red sand from him. Maybe just using diamonds, maybe using something else. I don't know. So I think we're just going to go head over to his empire and see how good of a deal we can get from him. Okay, so these are all the things I'm willing to offer up. Of course I'm not going to give him all 40 of my diamonds, or 60 emeralds. I might give him 60 emeralds, actually. That's pretty easy to obtain. But yeah, these are pretty much all the types of items I'm willing to trade right now, since I'm actually kind of running low on wood. So I was going to trade him spruce, but I don't have a ton, and I'm using the rest of it probably to build this house. So I think these are pretty much the only items that I'm willing to trade right now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm at Too Much Mustard's base, and we have a deal worked out. So logs, just going to get the logs out. Give them to him. And hoping to get the red sand anytime. Okay. Alright, and he's back with the red sand. Alright, cool. Thanks. Thanks. Oh, that's a lot of red sand. Alright, thanks, man. Alright, so I've gotten all the blocks I think I'll be needing for this build. Just putting this shulker box here just for a little bit of organization in case I need to move it around. You know, I'm working on like the second floor and I want to have the materials close by. It's very convenient to have shulker boxes now. And yeah, I think I'm just going to get started on building this house, and we're going to do it in the form of a third-person time-lapse. So let's begin the time-lapse. Alrighty then, folks. So I'm actually super happy with how this house turned out, but you may or may not have noticed that during the time lapse, the server was having some rendering issues, and they're continuing. So I have no clue what's going on right now. It may be that we need to update to the new 1.18.1 update. I didn't see that as being super necessary when it came out, but potentially we do need to update to that update. So I'll probably be doing that in the near future. But yeah, I'm actually super happy with how this house turned out. I wasn't actually prepared for it to take as long as it did, but trying to figure out what block palette I wanted to use and kind of building it up in a creative test world before coming in here took quite a while. So I guess the work paid off. I don't know. And also, the nice thing about the InfinityCraft resource pack is we have a texture pack that, or we have a texture that kind of varies the cobblestone texture a bit, and it makes it so that you don't strictly need the stone bricks to sort of vary the the stone texture. So you don't actually need the stone bricks to, you know, vary the stone texture, but it still looks nice, so I'll probably do that in future builds. I just wanted to see what it would look like without the stone bricks, and it actually still looks quite nice. So yeah, I'm actually just super happy with how this build turned out. However, the next thing I'd like to do in this episode is much more technical and a lot less building related. I mean, it will still have a little bit of building, but not as much. I think it's time to get a super smelter going. Nothing too big, just a 16 furnace system, just the super smelter that we had last season. And like, being real with you guys, I have much bigger plans in terms of big redstone farms this season than last season. So don't think this is the end of the big redstone project saga. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna get all the materials ready for the super smelter, probably having to do a lot of mining because Jesus is going to take a lot of iron. So yeah, I'll see you guys when I've gotten all the iron required to build this super smelter. I was just doing a bit of mental math and I realized how much iron I'm going to need to build this super smelter. Okay, so I've gotten all the redstone materials that I'll need to construct the super smelter, put into this shulker box. Not any of the building materials, because those are probably gonna, you know, come later, obviously. But yeah, I have all the redstone materials sorted out into the shulker box. It's actually a fairly simple design because it's just 16 furnaces, a bunch of rails, some powered rails, a few levers, some building blocks, you know, very simple stuff. The one thing that I did that was quite annoying to get was the iron for all the hoppers, because believe me, iron in 1.18 is very difficult to get, especially if it's 1.17 chunks, because you know, going down to y = 64, there's no iron down there. Or y, you know, not y = 64, but, you know, below y = 0 down to like y = -64. There's no iron down there. So I just had to search surface level caves because I didn't want to go mining. You know, in the, just, you know, Y11 places. I just searched surface level caves, which, believe me, there aren't a lot of around here. So yeah, the iron was quite difficult to get. But right now, I think I'm just going to need to dig a very large hole to put the super smelter in, because I'm going to put it underground. Because the design I have for this is sort of an underground super smelter with the input chest above ground in a little building, and the output chest being in like the basement of that building. So it's all kind of concealed underground. So yeah, right now I'm going to go dig a very large hole. Alright, so I've dug a very large hole, because as we all know, every good redstone build starts with a very large hole. And I'm a little concerned because I don't know if this hole is wide enough. I think 5 blocks should be good. If the furnaces themselves are centered, then 5 blocks should be more than enough. But I don't know if I want the furnaces centered, so we'll just see how this goes. Also, there's no exit right now, and I don't have any rockets for my elytra, so I don't really have a way of getting out of here. But it's fine. There doesn't need to be an exit, right? Or at least not right now, because we're just building the super smelter. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna get started on building the super smelter. It's a fairly simple design. You guys can follow along if you want. Not the best at redstone, so if it's not the most efficient design, please don't scream at me. Please don't. I know it's not a very efficient design, but I'm not the best at redstone. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna get to constructing this super smelter. Okay, so I had to make this hole slightly longer this way, and I just slid the furnaces this way a bit. So they did fit originally, but they only had 2 blocks of room on either side, so I just made the hole 2 blocks longer this way to accommodate for the super smelter a bit better. Because if I hadn't made it longer, it would have been a really tight fit, and it probably wouldn't have worked. I probably would have needed to make the hole longer anyway. So I just did it, you know, I just did it in advance, so I didn't have to do it later. And yeah, now I think I'm going to lay out the hoppers, because I don't know if I want to have the hoppers facing into the furnaces, or into the front of the furnaces, or the back. I think I might turn the front of the furnaces into a sort of decoration, so you can actually still see the front of the furnaces in this basement, but I don't have to make a giant building to accommodate the super smelter, is really why I'm putting this underground. Because last season, the building for the super smelter was so big, it was obnoxious. Alright, so I've gotten all the hoppers and the rails and things set up, and now I'm really going to need to figure out where I want to build this building so I can figure out how I want to fill the hopper minecarts, because if I want to fill them from the side, I could just do this. If I want to fill them just, you know, with a hopper facing this way, I could just go dig a hole right here. But I do want to figure out where I'm going to build this building first before I do that. So I think I'm just going to lay out a quick foundation, and then, you know, go from there on where I'm going to place the input chest. And then the coal input doesn't have to be on the surface because I'm probably not going to be refueling this thing very often. Alright, so basically where I dug this hole pretty much seems like the best place to put the input chest because it's pretty much in the center here. Maybe actually, maybe this would be better because it's in the corner, and I think having the input chest in the corner may just look better, just for aesthetics, not having it perfectly centered, because then I could have it be a double chest and have one half of the double chest be in the corner, so it wouldn't be, you know, perfectly centered. Also, double chests can't center, so having it intentionally not centered would probably be a better option. So yeah, I think I'm going to finish up not wiring up, but getting this all the storage, not the storage, but like the input chests hooked up, and then also probably get working on the basement. I'm very excited for how the basement's gonna look, though. Probably more excited for the basement than this part, because believe it or not, I'm more complicated building things like super smelters and big redstone farms than I am building things like houses, which is why I always get so excited when a house turns out, or when a build turns out good, because I'm never super confident in my building abilities yet, because I always think, you know, I've been playing this game for a very long time. For the longest time, I never really took the game very seriously. I always just thought of it as a sort of a destruction playground. So now that I've really taken, you know, the time to learn how to build and things, I always get very happy when they turn out right. Although I've always kind of been interested in redstone, which is why I'm so much more confident with redstone than things like building. So, what if the input chest wasn't a chest but a barrel, just for aesthetics? Oh my gosh, am I prioritizing storage space over aesthetics? This seems like a really dumb decision, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've gotten the input chest and the sort of lever for powering the super smelter all hooked up here. The lever just is powering a block, which powers some redstone dust, which powers some more blocks, to power rails, you know, just standard stuff. And the input chest just has some hoppers leading down to it. You actually can't see it because it's all being concealed by the slabs right here, and also the hoppers down on the bottom, the output hoppers are being covered up by some trapdoors. And the input chest just has some stairs over it, just sort of concealing it in the, you know, kind of concealing the hoppers and the sort of inner workings of the super smelter. But now I think it's time to begin working on the building that the super smelter that's going to go over the super smelter, as sort of like a shell, sort of a aesthetic piece to go over it. And it's going to be quite a simple building. Not simple, but just a small building, not a super large building, because last season the super smelter building was gigantic and didn't really like how it looked. So I think this season we're going to go much smaller, maybe just a little blacksmith or a little forge or something. Well, just a blacksmith building. And yeah, I think I'm just going to do that in the form of progress updates, because I really don't have the time, or not the time, I don't want to add another time lapse to this video. There's already been one, and it was fairly decent. It was fairly decent in length, so I think we're just going to do this in the form of some progress updates. So yeah, I think I'm going to begin working on the sort of foundation of this building. Not the foundation, but, you know, like the first floor. Alright, so I've gotten the main blacksmith shop building completed for the most part. There's still a few things that I'd like to add, but I don't have time for that in this episode. But now I'm going to begin working on sort of just a small little awning out here with a forge, sort of like a forge behind it, like a chimney maybe poking up right there, kind of through the roof right there, just to sort of sell the blacksmith shop vibe a bit more. And then also I'm going to add, you know, maybe like a tool rack, an anvil, obviously, so things like that, just to sort of add to the, you know, sort of blacksmith's aesthetic. Okay, so I just added this little chimney here and this small overhang. Then I also added this anvil here. Hold on, I'm going to turn this place off, or I'm going to turn the minecart rails. Hello? Okay, they just turned off. Alright, so I added this little chimney here, an anvil, just this little back wall here for this overhang, sort of extending the wall out a bit, and then the chimney sort of intersects this. I just think this whole place looks very nice. I'm actually quite surprised that this place turned out as good as it did, in my opinion. Of course, you guys can have your own opinions, but I think this place turned out quite nice for what I was going for as sort of a small blacksmith building. I mean, I still have to decorate the inside, probably going to make this more of like the blacksmith house instead of having it be, you know, like the like just more of a blacksmith building. I'm probably going to have this be like the blacksmith's house, and then this leads down to, you know, like this cellar where the super smelter is, or the basement, I guess. And then yeah, the unfortunately the input chest is just gonna have to stay there. There's no way I can really, you know, hide that in any real capacity. I could, you know, maybe make it look like more of a storage chest, but other than that, it's gotta stay there. But yeah, I'm actually just really happy with how this whole building looks, and from a distance, you know, it sort of adds to the skyline a bit with a bit more, you know, texture than just having a plain roof. That big chimney sort of adds a bit of texture to the whole build. So yeah, I also think it really improves the skyline of this place as well, which was kind of lacking in terms of, you know, real color and things. But I think this is where we are going to leave off this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. My name is VoidDoctor. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.